country. Hundreds of people, joined by prominent figures from the opposition, demanded recognition of the victory of Edmundo Gonzalez. The demonstrations aim to raise awareness on discontent with the electoral process in Venezuela.
And for more on this, global affairs analyst Collins Oweke joins me now from Belgium. Good to have you join us.
Thank you, Precious, for having me.
So we see that there is now protests, in Caracas, Venezuela, following the results of the election. But we know that pre- and post-election protests are not unusual in Venezuela. But when you add these protests to regional and international condemnation, can President Maduro ride out this turmoil and cling on to office?
President Maduro has, been able to, withstand similar challenges in the past, amongst which is the biting, American sanction against them that brought about, the economic hardship that the country is going through and has even not recovered as of this moment. Now, this is a challenge of a different nature. His last election, for want of another word to use, was also marred by quite a lot of controversies. But there appear to be an edge to this specific one, this specific protest and conflicts that appears to suggest that he is more and more in a tightening corner. Let's not forget, Precious, that only this morning he has had to expel about 7, and I mean 7, South American diplomats that are in Caracas because they supported the protest and actually claimed that indeed the election was marred by irregularities and that they appear to be fraud. So with such seeming, isolation, I think it's difficult for him to be able to weather this particular storm. But wait and see. That's the message.
Let's talk more about this isolation, because you remember that in 2023, the Biden administration broadly eased sanctions on Venezuela's oil sector. And that was in response to a deal that was reached between, I think it was the government and opposition parties for this particular election. Now, January this year, the United States again reimposed those sanctions. That was when the top court in that country upheld the disqualification. I think it was of the opposition presidential hopeful. Now that this election has gone this way, how do you expect the U.S. to respond now?
Well, the U.S. has basically given us some signs in January this year of what they are most likely to do. I think they are going to tighten up the screw they are using to push Maduro right in a corner. And it is not by coincidence that these 7 South American countries have actually spoken out against the electoral malpractices and the fraud that actually occurred there. I think that is part of America's plan. They are going to build a very, very strong international coalition against Venezuela. And so what they saw up until 2023, when the sanction was eased, like you rightly pointed out, is going to be a child's play compared to what is going to happen, this time around as America's, response to this obnoxious practice of electoral malpractice.
And what sort of ripple effect do you see these post-election developments having on the region?
Well, there are quite a number of, what you can consider to be rogue nations in those, in that, sub-region. Mexico appears to be doing, fantastically well. I mean, in terms of democratization, only recently, we saw the election of the first, female president there, something that hasn't happened in many other countries. And so, yes, some people, some nations of the South American axis will actually be learning from what is happening here, because obviously they are sharpening their rigging tools so that they will rig their way into the presidential palace. But what is happening in Venezuela now will actually send a strong message. So if we do not see a ripple effect, in the negative side, which means more riggings and authoritarianism, it is because they are actually afraid of the consequences, not because they have now suddenly embraced democracy.
But do you also see some of these countries struggling with a balance? Because on one hand, people have said, look, it is the sanctions by the U.S. that has led to some of the economic meltdown we've seen in Venezuela. But there are also those who are saying they are going to leave the country because they cannot stand another 6-year term of President Maduro. So on one hand, you are seeing people leave because of the economic meltdown. There are people who are going to leave again. Migration will increase because of the situation there. So countries do not want people, to migrate to their countries. And so they're going to try and, do you see that struggle with the balance?
Well, yes. In other words, Precious, what you have just talked about is national and security interests of the neighboring countries, one of which is, the strongest, of course, in the area, being United States of America. Yes, there is very, very serious concern about, the influx of refugees into other countries. And so, yes, when the United States leads the fight against, what is happening in Venezuela today, it is doing so not because it loves the Venezuelans that much, but simply because, they are fighting for their own national interests by way of preventing, the ripple effect of, the crisis there from spreading further. And so that appears to be the strongest message, the strongest weapon that the United States, and other powers, other regional powers like Mexico would actually have in actually persuading the reluctant ones to come along with them. Of course, they're going to, do some trade-offs by way of economic trade incentives to enable them cooperate, but ultimately it's going to be every cent invested in countering what is happening in Venezuela today is going to be a cent well invested.
Interesting, developments there. We're following to see how long President Maduro can ride this out. Thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure to have you on Collins Awake, a global affairs analyst.
Thank you, Precious. Always a pleasure to you. Thanks.
All right, let's turn attention to Bangladesh, where an independent judicial committee is to investigate the killing of a university student, Abu Saeed, reportedly slain in the country's recent widespread protest against quotas in government jobs. Videos have emerged showing him standing with open arms, stick in hand, facing heavily armed, and within seconds, he was shot at, but still he continues to stand, even as the sounds of more shots rang out, and he collapsed a few minutes later. Bangladeshi Junior Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Mohammed Ali Arafat, agrees the video of Mr. Saeed being shot appears unlawful, adding that the incident would be investigated. But a spokesman for Dhaka Metropolitan Police, Farouk Hussain, has defended their actions, saying police fired only in self-defense. You're watching The World Now. We'll take a break and return with more stories. Stay with us.
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw earthen material slabbed, stroked and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move way in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
There is always more to a story than the scrimmage headline. The part of a story that is not told casts a shadow. It's like the part of an object that is not reached by light. On TVC News, I'm able to explore the many angles there are to a story, talking to stakeholders, asking the difficult questions, and digging for facts. I believe the viewers are able to make a better decision if they're well informed and understand not just a part, but the complete story.
Thanks for staying with us. In the Middle East, the war between Israel and Hamas is still raging. This time, at least 9 Israeli soldiers have been accused of abusing a Palestinian detainee at a military base. This is as the heat of battles between Lebanon's Hezbollah militant group and the Israel military rages.
Israeli far-right protesters broke into an army base in a show of support for soldiers accused of severely mistreating a Palestinian prisoner at the base. The reservists are now subject to an official investigation. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu released a statement strongly condemning the incident and calling for calmness. Protesters also broke into a second military base where the reservists were taken for questioning, but they were reportedly stopped. The base, located in southern Israel, has for months been at the center of reports of serious abuses against Gaza detainees. He is said to have been hospitalized after what Israeli media reports described as serious sexual abuse and injuries that left him unable to walk. According to local media reports, at least 9 Israeli soldiers at the base are accused of abusing the Palestinian detainee, a suspected Hamas fighter who was captured in Gaza. Reacting in the Philippines to the battle between the Israeli military and Hezbollah over a recent attack against Israel, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, emphasized America's commitment to supporting Israel in the face of any aggression.
Is inevitable, or imminent, excuse me. I don't believe that...
All right, let's turn to other stories now. A commander in Russian mercenary group has been killed in Mali following an attack by rebel fighters during a sandstorm, and that's according to the group. The military regime in the West African state turned to Wagner Group in 2021, seeking support in fighting jihadist and separatist forces. On Monday, the Russian outfit, which has now morphed into a group named Africa Corps, said it had joined Mali's military in fierce battles against separatists and jihadist militants last week. According to sources close to Africa Corps, the separatists launched a major attack, killing an estimated 20 to 50 mercenaries. And now to the UK, where a third girl has been reported dead after yesterday's mass stabbing at a dance party in Southport. The girl, aged 9, died in the early hours of this morning. 2 other girls, aged 6 and 7, died yesterday. 5 children and 2 adults are in critical condition. The class was organized by Leanne Lucas. People have paid a tribute to her bravery, but her condition is not known. A 17-year-old male arrested on suspicion of the multiple murder is in police custody. Now to the U.S., where a man accused of starting a California wildfire that has burned through more than 370,000 acres of land and destroyed scores of buildings, causing thousands to flee their homes, is facing judicial scrutiny. The 42-year-old Ronnie Stout appeared in court on Monday afternoon charged with arson for allegedly igniting the park fire by pushing a burning car into a ravine. The fire is now the 6th largest recorded in the state, burning in 4 counties. The fire, which is only 12% contained, has destroyed 109 structures. More than 8,000 have been told to evacuate their homes. Back to the Middle East, where Israel has threatened a severe response to the attack in Angola Heights some days ago. And now we understand that Hezbollah has responded, also threatening retaliation if Israel does respond. Let's now bring in journalist from Beirut, Lebanon, Miriam Saleh. Good to have you join us, Miriam.
Thank you for having me.
So the latest report we're getting now from some journalists is that Hezbollah has now also threatened or warned that it will respond to any Israeli aggression in Lebanon. And that was after Prime Minister Netanyahu vowed severe response to the attack on Golan Heights. What's the mood in Beirut?
Well, we need to keep in mind one thing, that Hezbollah has from the beginning completely denied any responsibility for what happened in the area of Majd al-Shams, the Golan Heights, which is a place where you have an Arab community. And many testimonies, in addition to videos from the community there, showed very clearly that there was a rocket that came from Jabal al-Sheikh, where there is an Israeli military barracks, and that rocket was the rocket of the Iron Dome platform. Hezbollah made that very clear. If Hezbollah, as some U.S. experts or U.S. officials are saying, might have accidentally, not purposefully, hit an area where there are civilians, then this issue would have happened several times in the past. Hezbollah, in the last 10 to 11 months, has so far been very meticulous when it comes to targeting only Israeli military targets, only Israeli military places. Now, this said, Hezbollah has clearly made it and sent their message to the Lebanese government. The Lebanese government has also made that claim to the United Nations, as well as the United States and other players, that since Hezbollah was not responsible for the Majd al-Shams issue, and the Israelis do launch an aggression which leads to destruction of an infrastructure or the killing of civilians, then Hezbollah will make it its duty to retaliate for that issue, which they believe will be completely separate from the confrontations that have been going on the last 10 months, which are in support of the Palestinian resistance and the people of Gaza, in addition to retaliating for the Israeli aggressions that continue to take place in South Lebanon.
So how then do you respond to those who say, look, because this is a disputed region, and because the major victims here were children, and so it will be very difficult for Hezbollah to claim responsibility for such an attack?
Yes, this does complicate things very much, and we've heard also from how we can understand this is through the Druze community, the Arab community in Majd al-Shams, whose children are the ones who were killed. When Netanyahu decided to go and visit that area, all we heard from them was they were calling on Netanyahu, calling him a war criminal. They were saying that he is the one who is the killer of children and not Hezbollah. And if you get that from the victims themselves, from the families of the victims, from the heads, the religious clerics in Majd al-Shams itself, the religious community, of course, is very well united and linked together, whether the community in Lebanon and Syria, where the Golan Heights, by the way, is considered Syrian-occupied territory, and the people there are considered Syrian and they are Arabs, and they feel very strongly towards what is happening in Gaza, and they understand that the killer of children is Netanyahu and not Hezbollah. And Hezbollah has made this clear. Up until now, Hezbollah does not have any blood on their hands against any children or any innocent person. All those that have been killed in the confrontation through Hezbollah are only military personnel, and they have only targeted military sites. Now, with that said, again, it seems that the United States and Israel want to frame the resistance. They want to put this on Hezbollah because the Israelis are extremely in a tight spot now. They are definitely under pressure from their community. They're under pressure from the resistance in Lebanon, as well as the resistance in Gaza, in addition to the other fronts that are saying that they are fully supportive of the Palestinian people. They will not allow this genocidal war to continue. And so we're seeing that the Israelis, since they are under this pressure, they want to perhaps vent their anger on Lebanon itself by launching an aggression, a full-scale maybe aggression, or a strike that goes further from the boundaries that Hezbollah has laid for them from the beginning of the confrontation, not allowing them to be presumptuous in their launching attacks against civilians. So they want to vent that anger. The Americans also are giving them that green light, perhaps. While at the same time, we know for a fact that the U.S. does not want things to escalate into a regional war. And so I think that they will have to really try to restrain the Israelis into not launching a war that could lead to a direct attack or the killing of civilians in Lebanon, since if that happens, Allah has clearly vowed that they will retaliate.
We'll continue to monitor the trajectory of this conflict. Thank you so much for your time, journalist Miriam Saleh. The foreign ministers of the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue countries have met in Tokyo, Japan, to discuss their concern over the situation in the East and South China Seas. They issued a joint statement at the end of their meeting, and we have a report.
I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship except Allah.
While the lectures and proceedings of Justice Salano took center stage, a remarkable effort is unfolding beyond the spotlight. I'll take you there.
One of the most impressive feats was the preparation of meals for the massive gathering. A team of dedicated volunteers worked tirelessly to provide 3 meals a day. Sadiq Boateng from Ghana is a professional truck driver on a normal day, but today he is the head of kitchen operations at the Ahmadiyya Jalsa Convention.
We got the rice, we got pasta, we got perezi, dal, we got chicken, we got vegetables, we got rice, pasta, aloo bush, which is one of our favorites. So this board tells you.
Apologize for that mix-up. We'll bring you that earlier report in our subsequent bulletins. Thank you so much for watching The Word Now. For more updates on the stories we're monitoring, you can visit our website, www.tvcnews.tv. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and on X, using the handle at TVC News NG. Now, YouTube, we're live at TVC News Nigeria. I'll be back at 4 with more updates.
Every week, Green Angle, in partnership with Wild Aid, will bring you a documentary series on environmental issues affecting Nigeria's amazing biodiversity, from climate change, air pollution, and wildlife conservation. We will be traveling across Nigeria to give you on-the-ground report of the issues affecting our environment. It airs every Saturday at 4:30 p.m. only on TVC News.
Voted as the best TV station of the year, TVC News breaks into the core of every event as they happen, following all nationwide big and impactful stories. We tell the news from every perspective, covering every human angle. I am Veronica, bringing you the news you would want to watch.
Information is power, information is security, information is knowledge. On Labor Lens, we believe that working people around the world have real questions of their own. They want to know how the world of work operates, what it means to the employer of labor, how policies affect workers in the workplace. On Labor Lens, I ensure we engage effectively the organized labor, organized private sector, and governments to get out of them information workers are in need of. I am Sharon Ijason, asking questions that make you get sense of the workplace.
Albert Chinua Achebe was born November 16, 1930 in Kogi, Nigeria. He went to government college in Umuahia, Nigeria. In 1948, Achebe won a scholarship to the University of Ibadan to study medicine, but after a year, he changed his major to writing. After graduation in 1953, he became a script writer for the Nigerian Broadcasting Service (NBS), eventually becoming the head programmer for the discussion series. In 1956, he visited London for the first time to take a training course with the BBC. On returning, he moved to Enugu and edited and produced stories for the NBS. Achebe was unhappy with books about Africa written by British authors such as Joseph Conrad and John Buchan because he felt the descriptions of African people were inaccurate and insulting. In his spare time, he worked on Things Fall Apart. The novel was published in 1958. The book won immediate international recognition and also became the basis for a play. His second book, No Longer at Eve, published in 1960, is set in the last decade before Nigeria achieved independence. In 1961, Chinua Achebe met and married Christiana Chinua Koli, and they eventually had 4 children. The third book in the African trilogy, Arrow of God, was published in 1964. Achebe published his 4th novel, A Man of the People.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
This is the 93.6 kilometer Ilorin-Jeba Federal Highway. The first phase of its reconstruction was completed during the Buhari administration. It is currently being dualized. It serves as the major link road between the southwest and the north. As much as the highway is pleasurable to drive on, over 52% of accidents recorded in Kwara State happen on this road. According to the statistics from the Federal Road Safety Commission, out of the 307 accident cases recorded in Kwara State in 2023, 161 occurred on the Ilorin-Jeba Federal Highway, representing more than half of the total number of accidents in the state.
We discovered that speed is #1 cause, and then we have the issues of wrongful overtaking, and then we also have the issues, the encumbrances of night journey that come with driver fatigue and poor visibility. And then we have other incidents of knockdown of pedestrians along that route.
The Okolo-Shao Junction axis of the expressway is the most notorious. This is because the expressway passes through these communities, and to cross over the highway is like a death sentence.
One of trailer is half accident, almost 25 people died, and 15 people is injured in the hospital. A series of accidents coming in accident Okolo. Please, I will try to plead to the federal government, state government. We need overhead bridges in Okolo Junction. Please, see the life of the people. Okolo is a battlefield of accidents for my people.
Between January and June this year, 61 crashes have been recorded, with at least 87 lives lost, including workers and students of the Kwara State University and other private institutions on the axis. Between last year and June this year, at least 15 persons have been knocked down while trying to cross to the other side of the road.
At times, as we were coming, some people might not even know that these trailers are coming. So before we even cross, some would almost touch us. So I will plead the government or advise them in providing these down blows for us.
Shegun Oke is a tricycle rider at Shao Junction. He has witnessed many fatal accidents, especially those trying to cross over the expressway.
This junction is always cause accidents for this junction, and we want him to help us to do this bridge, because always accidents was always happen for this junction. We beg government to come and help us for this junction.
After one of such fatal accidents, Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak of Kwara State was at the scene to sympathize with the surviving victims. He also re-echoes the need to have overhead bridges to prevent unnecessary loss of lives.
Well, I guess it's because it's a smooth, beautiful road. People overspeed. We need speed limit, speed control, and there's a need for continuous intervention on this road. For example, a flyover is needed to control the traffic, to reduce the traffic congestion at the intersection a few hundred meters from here. But the first thing is to say that safety is important. Drivers should control their speed.
It may not stop at just interchanges, but if we have footbridges too that will cross that road, because definitely if you look at it, you understand that the express cuts across a community, and so definitely there will be a need for pedestrians to cross from one side to the other, either for market, for school, and for other purposes.
The highway passes through some communities, and this makes them to be at a higher risk of accidents and knockdown.
Ever since the reconstruction of the Ilorin-Jeba Federal Highway, there has been a steady rise in the cases of accidents along this corridor, and this is largely due to dangerous overtaking and overspeeding among motorists. And this is why residents of this community and of course motorists are appealing to the federal government to help construct interchanges and overhead bridges on major junctions, especially Okolo and Shao junctions. Ibrahim Alige, TVC News, Ilorin.
Our planet, our home, threatened by man's activities with fears of mass extinction on the rise. On Green Angle, we examine the issues that affect our environment, seek solutions to put us on track to secure and restore a cleaner and greener world for generations to come.
He is only 5 years old, but his talent is not. It is on a level many would strive to achieve, perhaps after a lifetime of learning. This is the story of Motirola Oluwa Emmanuel, who displays an unusual talent on two of music's most popular instruments in Nigeria, pianos and drums. No denying the fact that Motirola Oluwa